Survival of the fittest.
Sickest, by Ivan Vera and Joel Thompson. You're already living it. Was diabetes evolution's response to the last ice age? Did a deadly genetic disease help our ancestors survive the bubonic plagues of Europe? Will a visit to the tanning salon help lower your cholesterol? Why do we age? Why are some people immune to HIV? Can your genes be turned on, or off? Joining the ranks of modern mythbusters, Dr. Sharon Moalem turns our current understanding of illness on its head and challenges us to fundamentally change the way we think about our bodies, our health, and our relationship to just about every other living thing on Earth, from plants and animals to insects and bacteria.
Chapter 1. Hemochromatosis is a hereditary disease, the most common for people of European descent, where the body can't register that it has enough iron. The result is that iron is continuously built up in the body, and this buildup can have very serious side effects, including death. Contrarily, people with hemochromatosis tend to have white blood cells with less iron than a normal person. Since iron is necessary for growth of bacteria, cancer, etc., people with hemochromatosis have an advantage against infections, particularly the bubonic plague. It is supposed that people with hemochromatosis were more likely to live during the plague than those without, thus the prevalence of the gene nowadays. Interestingly, one of the best treatments for this condition is bloodletting, so it looks like all those crazy bloodletting, leech-sticking doctors went mistreating.
Chapter 2. Diabetes tends to be common in people of Northern European descent. The Younger Dryas was a minor ice age that occurred around 13,000 years ago. After much investigation, researchers deduced that the Younger Dryas took only a decade to develop, and lasted around 3 years. This indicated that one population experienced a significant climate change in their lifetime. Thus, those that survived this curt climate change likely had an advantage over others who died, one that they passed to future generations. The advantage seems to be diabetes, which entails a prevalence of glucose in the bloodstream. Excess glucose in liquid, however, lowers the freezing temperature, making humans with excess sugar in their bloodstream more prone to surviving harshly cold environments. Chapter 3. Sunlight is a necessary but dangerous thing. Sunlight is vitally important because it is the main natural supply of vitamin D. Vitamin D ensures the growth of healthy bones in children and the maintenance of healthy bones in adults. Vitamin D is formed by sunlight interacting with cholesterol. Similarly, folic acid is also essential to the human body. Folic acid is an integral part of a cell cycle, as it is vital in replication of DNA. Thus we come to sunlight's downside: too much of it depletes folic acid in the body. Skin color then is an adaptation to the necessity and danger of sunlight. Dark-skinned individuals prevent overexposure of sunlight and compensate by producing more cholesterol. Light-skinned individuals compensate for lack of sunlight in their environments by absorbing more sunlight, as well as producing more cholesterol, but are more prone to folic acid deficiencies and skin cancer.
Chapter 4. Chapter 4 mainly focuses on the diverse functions of plants. While plants are obviously widely beneficial to humans, providing necessary oxygen and food sources, they are also potentially harmful. Plants employ various defense mechanisms that repel organisms from eating their leaves. Fava beans are one such plant. Fava beans are related to a genetic disease inherited by people mainly in regions of fava bean cultivation. This disease causes an enzyme deficiency which leads to the rupturing of red blood cells. As a result, people with favism, the aforementioned disease, tend to die of severe anemia. However, favism can also provide a survival advantage by protecting those afflicted with the disease from malaria, as mosquitoes are less attracted to the ruptured red blood cells.
Chapter 5. Parasites are interesting little buggers. They may have a negative connotation, but their strategies for survival are marvelous, as they are able to use the bodies of far larger hosts to their own advantage. One such parasite, the guinea worm, has plagued humans for centuries. Humans ingest guinea worm larvae from water, which carry out their development within the body. Once fully developed, the parasite moves to the lower extremities and exits to the water, by literally bursting through the skin, a process that leaves a painful open sore on the host human. Similarly, parasite wasps lay their eggs on spider abdomens, where the hatched larvae feed on the spider's blood. These larvae eventually infect the spider with a chemical that forces the spider to craft a special reinforced web that will protect the larvae cocoons. The spider is then eaten by the larvae, their parasitic manipulation having thus ensured their survival to adulthood and likely reproduction.
Chapter 6. In recent years scientists have discovered that DNA can be modified in more ways than simple random mutations. A form of Lamarckism, or the inheritance of acquired traits, is making a comeback after being superseded by Darwin's Origin of the Species. Barbara McClintock produced evidence in the 1950s of jumping genes or whole sequences of DNA that moved from one place to another during times of some environmental stress. Sometimes these jumping genes, or transposons, perform a cut and paste, and other times they perform a copy and paste. Large portions of our junk DNA that does not code for proteins, is made out of jumping genes. These modifications to DNA are important because they may prove either beneficial or detrimental to survival and reproduction.
Chapter 7. Epigenetics is a quickly rising field of study in biology. Epigenetics involves the study of heritable changes that occur without the alteration of DNA sequences, as certain compounds attach to specific genes and suppress their expression. Epigenetics supports the notion that phenotype or gene expression of a child can be modified by the mother's environment or conditions she is exposed to. Important afflictions that may be explained by epigenetics include obesity and other childhood defects. A 2003 experiment with mice helped corroborate the influence of epigenetics, as fat yellow mice given a dietary supplement during pregnancy were more likely to give birth to skinny brown mice, than those without the supplement. Epigenetics thus can vitally influence the traits of future generations.
Chapter 8, Death. It is frightening to conceptualize the notion of death, the immobility and finality that it entails, yet it is an accepted fact of life that death is inevitable. What follows death, if anything, is unknown, and likely will remain so, but one thing humans are finally beginning to discern is the main culprit for death by aging: telomeres. Telomeres protect against loss of genetic material, and seem to cause aging by gradually decaying, eventually reaching a point of total decadence where cell division stops. The number of times a cell can divide before reaching this limit is known as the Hayflick limit, and seems to be a protection against cancer. When telomeres fail to decay, cells can replicate indefinitely, thus cancer employs a special telomerase to lengthen telomeres. Similarly, progeria is a genetic disease that greatly accelerates aging, as a result of a faulty gene that codes for important cell developmental components. Progeria leads to the idea of genetic controls for aging, which could potentially be slowed down if technology were to allow it.
Thus we arrive at the end of our long journey. Survival of the Sickest is filled with fascinating insights and cutting-edge research, presented in a way that is both accessible and utterly absorbing, and helps to corroborate the notion that afflictions long thought of as solely damaging may also contribute to survival and longevity under the correct circumstances. This is a book about the interconnectedness of all life on Earth and especially, what that means for us.